Okay. Okay, the meeting is now streaming live on.
All right, good evening, everyone. The meeting of the board is now called to order at 7 p.m. Before beginning tonight's meeting, I'm required to make the following announcement. In the unlikely event the fire alarms go off, please exit the building quickly and quietly. Evacuate the building using the following exits. Will anyone need assistance in case of such an event? Once outside, please move away from the building and keep fire lanes and entrances clear. Do not re-enter the building until you are told to do so. Please turn off all electronic devices during the meeting, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And we'll right into our discussion items. And first up, we have our principal discussion with Mrs. Teletherapy.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to share my screen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Let's see. There we go. So tonight, my discussion really centers around remote learning during a pandemic and also remote leading. Obviously, things have been very different for us since March, but we've learned a few lessons. And someone had said, never waste an opportunity that a good pandemic creates. And this has certainly created many opportunities for us in various forms. Our first attempt at remote learning was very difficult because really no one had ever done it. There were no YouTube videos. There were no how-tos. There were no remote learning for dummies for, elementary, middle, or high school. And so we were all trying to survive figuring out how to do this while working with what we had to do at home as well. And things were really difficult for people. But I really do believe that the vast majority of people did the best that they could. We learned a whole bunch of new vocabulary from Seesaw, Google Meet, Zoom, Bloom, Remind, Google Classroom. These were all the things that many of us were saying in our sleep or keeping us up for that matter. We got to see into our coworkers and our students' homes, and sometimes these were hilarious, sometimes not so much. And we also learned how to utilize our mute buttons, and we were also very appreciative when we can shut off our cameras. But we also learned the importance of that social emotional piece, not just for our students, but also for the adults, our staff, and many times our families as well. So what lessons can we take with us from that? So let's see if this works. Our first step is preparation, making sure that we are prepared. The first thing that we did was making sure that every student K through 12 had a Google Classroom. This put us all on the same platform. And then teachers were able to connect, learn from each other, train each other. And there was never a question of, do you have the right email? Because if you didn't have a Gmail account, you couldn't go into the Google Classroom for Lakeshore. So thinking ahead, one of the things that I pushed and we shared amongst all of the staff was grab and go baggies. And these were in case of emergency. They were small, simple, but something that was needed. It had a letter from the principal. It had a letter from the teacher. It had a list of all the students' passwords, usernames for all the things that they needed, all the programs that they used. And then it had a calendar, a schedule of what their day was going to look like. And then it had also had a calendar of the A through E day schedule for the elementary. And we also made sure that we were prepping these packets a few weeks ahead of time so that when we actually did shut down, the kids already had their work. So there was no mad rush to the copy machine. There was no mad rush to get all of their things, get them out in the circle. Everybody had everything they needed, and it made more calm and organized remote learning start for everyone. Also, just being proactive in the workplace. Our nurse is very cognizant of what high traffic areas or high contact areas might look like. So she'll send out little notes to everyone just saying, hey, watch out if you're in the copy room, you can't have 6 people in there. Our teachers also got together across the elementary level to create a to-do list of the most important skills that we needed to start off with. So we were all on the same page. And then the teachers are able to teach from the building, but they can also teach from home. But those that teach from the building have the materials right at their fingertips. And I've asked those teachers that work from home to have a box or a bin or 5 that they keep materials with them so they have everything they need. Last week, we had 12 teachers in the building and they were very thankful for that chance to do that. You'll notice the pictures on the screen. This is actually our Highland office, and we have boxes by grade level with all of their grab and go baggies and all of their packets ready to go. Communication is also key. Email, faculty meetups, phone calls, global connect calls, global emails, global texts, Facebook, websites, the Google Classroom. Being able to connect with everyone has also been really important. Mrs. Wild, who's in the picture, she said one huge difference this time around is that every student has that Google Classroom, and it's been a lifesaver. She was thrilled this morning because everyone was on and everyone was having a great time. So it was positive for her and positive for the kids. A schedule, let's see if we can go back. No, hold on. Technical difficulties. Okay. A schedule for our elementary school students kind of looks like what you see on the screen. So the kids in the morning would have morning work, which they would find in their packet. And then they might be able to go online to do extra math. And then at the times that you see, they would have a Google Meet class with their teacher, or maybe with the TA, or possibly their AIS teacher. And then there's also breaks that are in there because it's hard for the kids to be on all day long. So the teachers schedule in breaks, you'll see like with the flashcards or quiet reading time. They might also have get up and go Google, go noodle times as well for movement breaks. And then obviously lunch. And the kids do come back on. It's been very positive. We really haven't had any trouble with it. And this gives them some kind of consistency versus just going on when you want to. Our other piece is understanding and control. We really are learning to try not to worry about what isn't in our control, such as the New York State regulations and guidance and the Department of Health regulations that seem to change all the time. And also learning who does and doesn't have access for one reason or another. We find ways to help them. Jeff has been wonderful. His team has been amazing, just trying to get computers in the hands of kids, and everyone works together to help them. The learning packets that we are putting out this time around are all printed for the children, and it gives us that equity so that everyone has the same material and there's no question about who has something or who doesn't have something. Anyone that doesn't pick up, we do phone calls home, and if for some reason they can't get to us, we end up making home visits and bringing that work to the children. We also share the attendance expectations with the students and the family so that there is accountability. They actually have to be on. And then having a plan in place with the teachers, the counselors, the social workers, and administration to assist those families and helps the students succeed. Obviously, during this time, compassion and kindness are key leadership cores, but it doesn't mean that we're not accountable for our jobs and making sure that we're doing the things that we have to do. Maintaining that positive and calm message for everyone in what's said and what's done is imperative for everyone. It keeps the staff calm, it keeps the students calm, and it teaches everyone how to deal with those issues rationally without any panic, and it helps them to build their resiliency. And obviously our greatest accomplishment with all of this is our students. and their preparedness for when they leave our care, whether it's the elementary school buildings, our middle school, or our high school buildings. These are just some pictures that I had taken today of all of our teachers working. We also have a sub in the building that was in one of our rooms that's storing some extra chairs and things like that. And we find every place we can to reach our kids, but they're all doing a great job. And I think that is it. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a couple, Kelly. So, the schedule we just saw from a distance, I couldn't read it correct, but.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
So, from seeing the schedule at a glance, so at Highland, kids log on, or the teachers log on at 9, and are they pretty much on continuous, except for short breaks until 3:10?
They are not on until 3:10 continuously. So in the morning, they may have, for example, 9 o'clock phonics and reading, maybe right after that, or writing, and then math. But in between, they would have short breaks. Then they would have specials. So they would have that time as well. And depending upon the classroom and the students, sometimes the kids get burnt very quickly, and the teachers are able to read that. They know what their students can do, what they need. And if they see that their children are melting in front of the computer screen, they can say, okay, why don't we work on this independently for a few minutes or for the next 20 minutes, but the teacher can stay on. So if a student needs help, they can go right to the teacher. It's just like working in the classroom. It's just a different platform.
Okay, and if they don't hit, let's say that you have multiple children in the residence. Obviously, you can't have all the children logged in at the same time. How is attendance tracked? It's pretty much impossible with the paper packet.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yeah.
that.
Charlie, you might need to come close to the mic and translate for us because we can't hear it.
So, are you able to hear it now?
A little bit.
Just a little bit.
So, if there's not technology for the student at home and they're using paper packets, there's not realistically a way to track attendance other than the work they're completing, correct?
That's not necessarily true. The teachers actually do check in with those students. So you might find them calling, emailing, however they can get a hold of the children or the family. In some cases where we haven't been able to get them online or we haven't been able to get any paper packets back, that's when we go on a home visit to see if there's anything that we can do to help facilitate that learning, whether it's a computer, if they just need help picking something up, whatever we can do to help them with that. And that does happen throughout the week. It's not just on that Monday, because our TAs and our AIS will also reach out if they don't have a particular kid that they're working with at that time.
Colleen, overall, do we still have some kids that we haven't been able to contact families at all, or have we made some sort of contact to make sure that the kids are getting what they need?
We have made contact with everyone. Some take a little longer to get in contact with than others. But in those cases, again, we're knocking on doors or we're leaving packets behind. We're calling. If it's not, the teacher will call, the counselor will call, I will call, whatever we need to do to reach them to make sure that they have everything. And in some cases, we also include our social worker or Nancy Clemens.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a general question for Melissa and Colleen. With all three elementary schools, do we have a percentage roughness of packages or that are in fact not being picked up at all? Do we have scenarios where we have not reached a parent within Law, Schmidt, or Highland, and a social worker has not had good luck getting hold of anybody as a percentage? Or are we doing pretty good of on the participation rate? The packages are going out and 95%, 98% are being at some point in front of a
Well, it's only the first week. So last week was a short week and many of our teachers had already sent home those packets ahead of time. So the students already had them. When it comes to those that were remote prior to shutting down on November 20th or going fully remote on November 20th, we only had at Highland one or two that were not picking up that we were in constant contact with. But those are instances where we're working with the family. And so we know the situation. Now that we have moved, we're in that fully remote mode. This is the first week, but my teachers were all prepared. So they've already sent home their packets ahead of time. So they're already prepping packets for next week. So I can email that to you next week to let you know if there's a particular number that don't pick up. But so far we've been able to get it to everyone, either through pickup, handing it to them, or dropping off.
Thank you, that's great.
Colleen or Melissa, do we have any students that are unable to always be online for these classes? And are our teachers recording so that kids can make it up if they're not able, they're going to daycare centers and they can't get on or anything like that? Do we have any of those situations? And if we do, what are we doing?
We do have a lot of kids that are not able to get on. There are some privacy issues with recording in some cases, depending upon how the teachers are presenting, because you don't want all of the children recorded on the video. But in those cases where a child isn't on, the teacher will reach out to those families and those children to make sure that they're touching base with them to see if there's any questions, if there are any issues, if they need them to go over something, so that the kids are getting constant contact.
Cindy, just to speak to that on a bigger level, I've been in some classrooms this week at the secondary level, and they are in the routine of recording their lessons. It's a little different because those kiddos don't have their camera on, and so they're recording. But we are rolling out some expectations next week around recording, and then they'll put them into a Google Classroom. We're just kind of working through at the elementary level what that might look like with the fact that the kids would be on the screen. But we do have an expectation that something will happen. So we just trying to tweak that out a little bit.
Melissa, when they record it and they put that into Google Classroom, is there a way to see what students are accessing that at some point in time, that we know who has logged in at some point after hours and watched them or not?
You know, I don't think so about that. I mean, I went to a classroom today, for example. I've been to a few this week, but the one today, as each kid comes on, the teacher is grading each student. And I noticed they're saying, did you get a chance to do your IXL? Did you watch the video from yesterday and do your work? It's very individualized, just like in a classroom. It's kind of just like if they're walking in the room, the things you would say normally to a kid. But I do not think that you can see that they viewed the video. That's not the way I understand it. So Colleen seems to agree with that. So I think I got, okay.
Yeah, there's no way to check if a child has viewed something after hours. So that's one of the drawbacks to the technology. It's there. I have a Google Classroom for the entire school and I'm unable to see who has checked in. When it's on the Facebook page, our school Facebook page, I can see who's liked it or who has commented, but that's the only way I can check. And it'll say you have 150 views, but there's only 25, comments or likes on that. So it's hard to see who's getting all of that information. So when the kids log on, the teachers are taking attendance to see who's there each time, and they record that information. And then again, they go back to those kids that weren't there.
We also are partnering with the Seneca Nation. We do have a bit of a lull now because until we find out what testing will look like. But every Monday they have work sessions for our kids where they also have internet and computers for any kids who might need it or want it. And then the JOM staff and some of their staff, other staff is there as well. Our Title VI homeschool liaisons, and they're there to support the kids and help them get their work done in that manner as well. So our teachers provide remote instruction on Mondays. It looks a little different than it does during the week. So we do believe that that's another great way that we're connecting with our kids at K-12 with the Seneca Nation.
Thank you.
I have a quick question too. What are we doing for multiple kids in a household with only one laptop? Because I know there's a problem getting laptops out to everybody, and nobody can obviously be on a remote class at the same time. How are we handling that?
Colleen, do you want to speak to that or you want me to?
So for those families that have children that are at multiple levels, and there are many of them, they do have to schedule, what's going to be the most important for their kids. And they do share the laptop. They can also call in though. So a lot of the kids, their parents have smartphones or they have smartphones and they're able to call in or Google Meet right on their phone. And then again, it goes back to, for example, on Mondays, which are always remote for everyone, if the child doesn't get on for whatever reason it might be, they're in daycare, they're at grandma's, they don't have internet, whatever the case is. Again, the teacher goes back and calls those kiddos and those families to make sure that whatever they need is taken care of.
One unique thing is at our secondary level, 6 through 12, the kids get their classes over 2 days. So period 1 through 5 is on Tuesday, and then period 6 through 10 is on Wednesday, and then we repeat that. That means those kids are not on all day long. And so that also provides a balance. And then Katie Berner-Wallen had put out a video with a planning template that actually is being used 6 through 12, where kids can go on and plot out with their family what that might look like. And then the Seneca Nation as well has some laptops that they're giving out to families that have bigger families. So, we did have an all call today with a family of 6 kids. They have 2 devices, and so they're looking for possibly a third. So we'll work with them in the Seneca Nation to see who can help with that. So, we're trying. Honestly, knock on wood, it feels like a great start. I'm hearing positive from everybody. I feel like we're really well prepared. I'm seeing classes that I've been in this week and last week, because I went in last week as well. They're full, 23 to 25 kids at the secondary level in the high school. That's where I spent most of my time this past week. So I'm pretty proud of our kids and our teachers and administrators for all the preparation and planning we've done. We're off to a really good start. I don't want to stay this way, but I'm pretty confident that we've done a lot of things right this time, and we knew it was coming and we're prepared.
I can tell you just the feeling with the staff, and I can only speak to Highland, but the feeling with the staff is much better this time around than with our original shutdown, because they were so prepared, because they had everything set and ready to go, because, and even though it was a bit of a pain to get everything ready so far ahead, they were so thankful that it was done ahead of time, because when that November 20th came, it was easy to just pass out those grab and go baggies. It was easy to make sure the students had everything that they needed. The kids all knew what they needed to do, because throughout this entire time, they've been on the Chromebooks in the class. So our kindergartners, our 1st, 2nd, 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders, they all knew how to log on to their computer. They all knew how to log on to their programs. They all knew how to get into Google Classroom. So it wasn't something different. So there was much more of a comfort level this time around. And we're seeing full classes when it comes to the Google Classrooms, and the teachers are excited and the kids are excited. So that's a huge plus in the way everybody looks at it.
Yeah, I was in the kindergarten room last week on day 1. That's all I'm going to say. It was hysterical, 19 of them. And I got ADD watching it because they were like all moving all over the screen, but they were there participating, doing their morning routine, following the calendar, and, doing all of the things they normally do. And it was pretty impressive.
That's great. Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions?
I'm good. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Colleen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate all your support because it's been very helpful, and it's great the little things that we get from everyone that makes them feel so good that they're doing a good job.
Well, and it's great to hear that it's going smoothly. Good to hear. All right, so with that, we're going to move on to special education. We have our presentation by Jill Bennett.
Hi, everyone. I'm sad that we are not all in person. I can't see everyone really that well, but hopefully we'll be back there soon. You know, we're all doing what we can and following the protocols, and we'll be back together and see each other, you know, even within 6 feet is still okay. But thank you so much for allowing me to be here tonight. And I'm going to review a few things. I don't have fun pictures for Colleen, like Colleen did. It would mostly be stacks of paper across desks and lots of Excel spreadsheets. But I'm going to do my best to explain. And if you have any questions, please let me know. This past school year has been very challenging for all of us in education, and it continues to challenge us and make us think in ways that we never have thought before. A few interesting facts about the timing of the corona pandemic hit us in the middle of our annual review. So I don't know if any of you remember a few years ago, I spoke about annual review time. We have to have these annual review meetings by guidelines and state mandates, okay? So we do an annual review time, and pandemic corona hit right then and there. So it was a huge shift. We have meetings, parents coming in, we have full committee meetings. We have discussions, and we do projections for each child and what it will look like in the next school year. When the pandemic hit, we went from in-person meetings, people in the building, team discussions, to all of a sudden the rug ripped underneath, you know, from beneath us. We transitioned our psychology team in about 1 week from an in-person platform to a virtual platform. We tried Zoom, we ended up with Google Meets, and we picked up as if nothing had happened. We tried to keep that consistency for our parents and for our families and for our team members. So that's what I want to talk about mostly tonight. And then one other thing, our indicator aid. So our program services this school year, we offered the same program as we have in the past. We have our consultant teacher models throughout each of our buildings, K-12. We also have academic and developmental self-contains. So again, even this school year, we have those annual reviews. Anytime a parent has a concern or we need to adjust those documents, those individual education plans, we come to the table. So last year we did that. We went from in-person to virtual. We learned so much from last year, and we grew so much. But the most important thing was the relationships that the teachers and the team had with our families. Because of those relationships, we were really able to have those meetings and continue on in meeting our mandates, our state and federal mandates, to the best of our abilities. And we did a phenomenal job overall. It has a lot to do with the leadership from administration and really the dedication and the perseverance that all of our staff have. I mean, that's including our clerical staff. We continued hitting those goals and those milestones that we normally would, even so much to this school year. So our children are evaluated every 3 years, and every time there's a concern, we come to the table, and that's exactly what we've continued to do this year. Like Colleen had mentioned, technology has been wonderful. All of our students have Gmail accounts. We do lessons through our Google Meets. We meet this way. So this year, we've taken the lessons we learned last year, and we're using that to have all of our meetings through Google Meets and having the parents participate not only on the phone or not only just talking, but really seeing people to get that intimate understanding of what's going on in that connection. A lot of areas that we've missed out is that social, emotional well-being of staff, students, families. So having that connection is something we've really focused on for this school year. Our overall goal in special education for all of our students is the least restrictive environment. Having our students have access to the general curriculum with the supports that they need in order to be successful. And it's been going really well. Not without its challenges, not without its hiccups, but every time we find something or something comes up, it's addressed. We figure out a different way to navigate those situations and to really make the learning environment the best for the student and for the family. Like Colleen had said, we are in people's homes, which is strange at times, but also something that is a luxury. We never would have seen it before. You know, you would never see somebody in the background, or you get to learn a little bit more about people and how we can address overall social emotional needs to get those academics and get those students where they need to be. So it's been a great learning experience. We continue to learn. We're hitting, right now we are doing our evaluations. We have been doing them in person prior to the pause, and we're going to continue to meet those goals and milestones, hopefully, and we'll be back before annual review this season. Yay. So the other thing that we have going is indicator 8. All districts throughout the state of New York have 6 indicators that they have to report on each year. So we've reported on indicators in the past. This year, we are up for indicator 8, which is our parent involvement. And really, it's a survey with the parents, and it's making that connection with the parents. For parents have the opportunity to say how they're doing and what they need as it relates to special education within our school district. So we have a rollout plan, and we've started making those calls and connections. The state works with Potsdam University. So it's a research-based center. They fill out the surveys, they complete it, and everything's confidential. And we work with the Potsdam University and with the state in order to meet these goals that they lay out for us. This year we'll have the survey indicator 8, and we'll have to complete it by August. So we're well on our way and getting ready, and starting to really hit the ground running with that. Sorry, that was a lot of information. I can't see anybody's face. Do you have any questions?
Jill, how are our services, how are we doing getting the services to our kids, our speech, our OT, now that we're remote? Are those people able to connect with our kids?
Thank you. That's a great question. So something that we always talk about years ago is that teletherapy. I remember hearing it years ago going, what's that? So since the pause of last year, we've transitioned pretty smoothly to that. It's almost second nature when we talk about those packets, when we talk about the teletherapy. And monthly, we get more guidance from the state. What actually does that look like? So teletherapy can be this way, where you see me and I see you. It can also be through the phone. We can provide those services through the phone. Any modalities that we have that we're able to provide that service. And a huge area that we've seen is that communication with the families. So not only do the child and the students have to do these things to increase with those related services, you'll see the parents, the mom or the dad or the grandmother standing right next to a child and providing those services as if it's being coached through, whether it be physical therapy or speech therapy or occupational therapy. It's really a holistic approach, and it's a team approach from the parents at home, because we can't do it without them, especially those therapies that require that physical assistance. And it has been challenging, but we've seen great things happening, and watching those teletherapies, it's unbelievable. And the therapists that we have and the staff that we have and the teachers that we have, it's remarkable. You never could think of the things and the possibilities, and then you see it, and it's wonderful. I wish we could all see it all the time, because it happens without us knowing. So they're giving those therapies, provided packets, live sessions over the phone, and multiple modalities in order to get those services. Because you're right, we do have to adhere to all of those because of our individual education plans.
That's great, thank you. Anyone have any other questions?
Jill, how do the students seem to be reacting, and probably a general observation you can make, between when it was remote, let's say March through June, versus now? Are you noticing a lot of positive differences in how the children are adapting?
It's a little bit of both, and it's really individualized on the student. So even in our hybrid model, when we were having students in 2 days a week, some students that was benefiting and that was working out well for them because of whatever challenges. Maybe it was overwhelming or the 4 days a week and having 2 days in person and 2 days virtual. That worked out. I heard a lot of positive feedback from parents on that, but it's really all individualized. It's self-paced. I think all of our students and our families are learning that prioritizing what do they have to do first, what is necessary to get done. So it's a little bit of everything mixed together. I've seen students that have thrived on it 4 days a week. And interestingly enough, I've had parents say, we prefer the virtual method. We can chip away at it at home and we can really get that big picture. And we see a difference with our child, whether it be behaviorally or that social emotional piece of being successful. So it really depends on the child and the family situation and how learning is best for that student. This has done so many things. We can come up with so many challenges the pandemic has put in front of us, but really it has pushed all of us to think outside of the box and explore learning like we never have before.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Anyone else?
Jill, I just have a quick one, and I think you kind of answered it, which is, I think I've heard a positive response to this. So in aggregate, we don't have a large problem with the family network or structure to have somebody home with that child. Between parents working, you mentioned grandparents. It doesn't seem to be a big issue of having someone there. If there's not any calls for help, or I just don't have anybody, what am I going to do? It sounds like it hasn't been a huge problem.
Well, I think just like it was in March, we've learned a lot, and same with families at home, and they've had to restructure what that looks like, who's going to be home. Certainly depending on the child and their developmental age and where they are, middle or high school, if they can sit and attend. Oftentimes our students that are younger can't. And you'll see the grandmother or the grandparent or the neighbor with them and having them sit down. So families have done a wonderful job having to adjust. I wouldn't say it's easy by any stretch of the imagination, but people have been doing the best that they can to make it work and engage and lean on the supports. And like Colleen had mentioned, we have levels of supports that we continue to try to provide as much as we can so we can get those students engaged in that educational process.
Thank you.
No? Thank you very much, Jill. All right. Now then with that, no other questions. They have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual. No action will be taken during executive session.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank you,
opposed?
Colleen. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, guys.